Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a scenario that honestly sounds straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster, right? But we're going to treat it completely differently. We're going to look at this as a deeply realistic, incredibly high-stakes simulation of what would absolutely be the greatest scientific discovery in human history. We're not talking about finding a new chemical element or some AI breakthrough. No, we're talking about something way older and just far stranger. So, what if the United States actually found alien technology? It's kind of the ultimate what if thought experiment. Just imagine it. The US, running a totally covert operation, uncovers something very deep underground, or maybe frozen in the ocean, or pulled from a remote crash site, something the world was simply never meant to see. Imagine prying open a sealed chamber and finding undeniable proof that an intelligence far, far more advanced than ours has already mastered the future. How does that whole scenario actually play out?
Okay, let's dive into this because the number you really need to keep in mind for day one is zero. That's exactly how many press conferences they would be. Zero headlines, zero public announcements, none of that. The discovery begins in complete, terrifying silence. It would happen behind closed doors, deep inside a locked military facility or some restricted black site. Only a tiny hand-picked group of scientists, engineers, and intelligence officers would even be allowed to know the truth.
And when those first scientists step into that locked room, they're going to be staring at an impossible artifact. I mean, we're talking about a device with literally no obvious power source, crafted from materials completely unlike any known substance on planet Earth. It would be shaped with a level of precision that just blows human manufacturing out of the water. You might see circuitry patterns that don't look organic, mechanical, or electronic in any way that makes sense to us. Maybe it just sits there, totally silent and inert, which is terrifying all on its own. Or maybe it reacts, just subtly, to human presence. Honestly, it would be like a Neanderthal trying to figure out a smartphone. The very first reaction from these experts, it wouldn't be excitement. It would be profound disbelief, followed by total confusion, and then, fear. Because this object would basically humiliate everything humanity thought we knew about science. So, to handle a secret of this insane magnitude, the government steps in and brutally compartmentalizes the research. Everything gets divided into distinct, isolated silos. You've got one team strictly analyzing the materials, while another looks at power signatures. A totally separate group inspects the geometry and symbols, and others are researching propulsion or figuring out the containment and threat levels. Almost everyone involved would only ever see tiny puzzle pieces, never the whole picture. It's this massive balancing act, right? They have to weigh extreme caution against this urgent, burning need to understand the tech before anyone else on Earth even sniffs out that it exists.
Because make no mistake, the immediate focus here is a massive military power grab. Think about it. Materials, stronger than steel but lighter than aluminum. Sensors that can detect threats way, way beyond our best radar. If they can reverse engineer even a tiny fraction of this, we're looking at radical aircraft transformation, total naval dominance, and just massive sweeping cyber data and surveillance upgrades. The entire national security apparatus would absolutely light up with possibility. And paranoia, too, for sure, as they desperately try to lock down an unprecedented strategic lead.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the frustrating reality of the scientific bottleneck. The most brilliant scientists in the country would hit a brick wall fast. Human science would violently crash into its own hard boundaries. You'd have these top-tier labs spending months, maybe years, failing to reproduce even tiny components. We're talking about materials that seem centuries or even millennia ahead of our physics. The normal pace of research would feel agonizingly slow. Every single test they run would probably just spawn 10 new questions instead of giving any real answers. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate dilemma researchers would face: the miracle versus the Trojan horse. On the one hand, you have this incredible, almost utopian promise: limitless, clean, ultra-dense energy that could just wipe out fossil fuels overnight. Huge leaps in medical diagnostics, radically faster propulsion. But on the other hand, what if it's a Trojan horse? What if the tech is highly unstable? What if it requires some biological compatibility we don't even grasp, or has hidden vulnerabilities that activate the second we try to use it? Rushing in to exploit this could literally trigger a catastrophe. Plus, if the US actually tries to hoard this technology all to itself, it sets off a massive strategic earthquake. We're talking profound global destabilization caused by a single superpower holding the keys to revolutionary, non-human tech. Rivals like China, Russia, and other global powers, they aren't just going to sit politely and wait their turn. No way. They would launch the most intense intelligence operations in history to find out what the US is hiding. Diplomacy would become incredibly tense, and the entire world would likely fracture into these deeply paranoid camps, all driven by the fear of absolute American dominance. But eventually, the truth always leaks, right? It's practically impossible to keep a lid on a secret this massive forever. The inevitable whispers start slipping out, maybe through some weird sudden funding shifts or bizarre procurement records that just don't add up. Once that happens, the military hits the gas on defense and black budget research to keep their edge. Rival nations? They launch unprecedented arms races and massive espionage campaigns. And outside those classified walls, the public and the ufology community just explode. Imagine the internet on the day this drops. It would be pure chaos, panic, and a tsunami of conspiracy theories. The pressure coming from the outside would just be immense. Let's move to and see how this builds. Because if there's even a partial success in reverse engineering this stuff, it triggers a massive sector cascade. This tech wouldn't just stay locked in a military lab. It would fundamentally transform civilization. Aerospace is completely redefined. Suddenly, Mars and deep space feel like they're right next door. Medicine sees wild leaps in advanced diagnostics and precision healing. The energy sector could totally replace fossil fuels with incredibly dense, clean power. Society as a whole gets far more efficient cities, supercharged computing, and instant communications. It cascades through literally every single sector of human life. But all of that massive transformation crashes us straight into the inequality dilemma. Does this technology become a global public good, universally benefiting all of humanity? Or does it turn into a privatized, strategic monopoly, hoarded by powerful corporations, wealthy elites, and the military? I mean, history kind of tells us that revolutionary tech usually ends up concentrated in the hands of the powerful first. So the real ethical nightmare here is figuring out whether this discovery is going to lift up all of humanity or just deepen the divide on a massive global scale. Beyond all the geopolitics and the economics, though, the public revelation of this would trigger an absolute philosophical shockwave. Think about it. This discovery shatters our fundamental assumptions about science, about religion, about everything. The public response would be this wild, dizzying mix of total awe combined with deep mass fear. It forces humanity to take a hard look in the mirror and reevaluate our place in the cosmos. We'd have to accept that we just aren't the smartest beings in the room anymore. We'd probably even have to sit down and draft completely new international laws for planetary security. The artifact itself forces us to confront some huge existential questions. Are the creators a dead civilization? Are they incredibly distant? Or are they still watching? Is this object just some forgotten relic left behind in a place it was never meant to be found? Is it a deliberate message left specifically for us? Or maybe it's a warning from a civilization whose science makes ours look like primitive stone tools. It's a humbling thought. It makes us realize humanity isn't the pinnacle of intelligence. We're just somewhere in the middle of a very, very long cosmic story. So the crucial point is this: a piece of alien technology would not stay a piece of technology for long. It would become a mirror, reflecting back humanity's deepest hopes and deepest fears. The discovery isn't really just about the machine itself, it's about our own reflection. It completely expands our sense of what's possible while it's simultaneously exposing the humiliating scale of what we simply don't know. It's the ultimate test of our readiness to finally grow up as a species and become responsible participants in a much larger cosmic community. Which brings us to a final, really provocative thought to leave you with. Should a discovery like this be kept secret for national security, or should it be shared with the world? Do you prioritize the stability and defense of a nation, embracing that nightmare of control? Or do you risk it all for the dream of human progress, sharing it for the greater good of humanity? I'd love for you to weigh in on this. Let me know what you think the right move is in the comments below. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the universe.